Cindy, not right.
Cindy, get down!
Don't just Cindy. Don't. You know better than that.
Did you save it up? Oh my God, you did.
Oh, yeah.
Like a convict.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
It's getting too long.
Why lie?
Because I shaved it. When you shaved him to look like a convict.
I prefer to think cancer patient.
No.
Yeah.
I'd rather have you look like a convict.
Really?
Jeez.
I like your tree, Miss B.
Can you believe that tree is 24 years old?
It looks like the same tree in our backyard. Uh-huh.
They actually braided theirs.
I wish ours was like that.
Jorgensen sent that to us when Gary was born.
Wow. It's cool. They're neat trees.
So it's 21 years old. What do you think? 24.
It's growing all the leaves coming out on it.
Sometimes you have to put it inside. Sometimes you put it outside, depending on what it's doing. But that's the biggest one I've ever seen.
It's been rejected
As far as
for a long
house
time.
plant.
Oh yeah, it's getting new leaves all over them. That was cool.
Try the bathroom.
Any what?
Toiletry.
Yeah, I think you only know like.
Just wear it. One to wipe your finger with.
There we are again. More live. We'll cover up for just
My friend, Dad used to always say, you get two square, you get one square. Wipe your finger with, wipe your butt with your finger and wipe your finger with the square. Girl. Oh, yeah.
The word sinister comes from Arabic for left-handed because they wipe their with their left hand.
It's the bad hand.
It's the bad hand, and the word sinister is Arabic for left-handed. Because people in that society who are left-handed are sinister because they.
You're born left-handed.
I know.
Beat it out of you?
Probably. You heard about the woman recently who I forget exactly what she did, but she had accused a man of doing something. And then the man, in turn, accused her of not being a virgin when she was unmarried. So the police arrested her on nothing but that accusation, literally tied her down in an office, or in a doctor's office, while the doctor and a bunch of people with cameras took pictures as the doctor determined her virginity. The way that it sounds. I don't actually know what they decided. But the sheer idea that all a man has to do is say she's unmarried and not a virgin, and they arrest her, strap her down, and violate her is vile.
What about the women who get circumcised?
England and most of Europe is having a huge problem with that, where as abiding as they are of the Muslim culture, just because they think that they have to respect that culture, the Muslims are taking their European-born little girls, Sydney's age, and shipping them to Pakistan for a week, and then sending them right back. Mutilating them is how I prefer to say it.
It is. I was watching a show about these young girls who were 13, 14, 12, having babies, and they get what they call fistula, and it's a hole in their bladder from having babies so young, so they continuously leak urine, and because of that, they're shunned from their families. And there's a whole fistula clinic set up in this country where these girls can go and have it fixed. But I mean, it's from having babies so young. It's a birth injury.
You have a hard time understanding why a
The,
parent
And yet they're shunned because it happens to them.
a specific part of the Islamic wedding ceremony is basically during the wedding, like during the reception, while everyone's drinking and partying, the husband takes his new bride into the bedroom. And, and if he's not able to provide, it's a special handkerchief. If he's not able to provide blood on that handkerchief to show his family that she's pure, her family, either her father has first dibs, her brothers have second dibs, and her uncles, if no one else is willing to, must kill her to save the family's honor. That's happening today. Not 100 years ago, not 1,000 years ago. That's happening right now, this very second, somewhere in the Middle East.
And then women are still raising that down.
It was a big deal. It was a big deal when that happened just earlier this year.
They treat the women like dogs.
They took her into an open arena, basically like a rodeo kind of thing, right, where there's lots of seats around and it's a big empty area, and everybody gets a rock and everybody throws a rock, and that's it. End of it.
My cousin Nancy went to a stoning when she was in Saudi Arabia. She watched it for about 2 minutes and can't take it anymore.
This is the culture that they're trying to tell us.
And that was the least of what they were going to do. The stoning was the first thing, then there was somebody going to lose a thumb, and then somebody was going to lose a hand, and then an arm, and finally the last thing was they were going to behead somebody. And she stayed for like 2 minutes of the stoning, and said,
they have this little book that was written by Muhammad 1,500 years ago that says to do these things, and even though it was written for a different time, it was written by a group of people who lived in the desert and didn't know any better. People that live today with modern technology that should know better still do the same thing because the Quran says so.
They don't know any better because they've lived that life for all these years.
They raise their little boys to think that way.
And the women too. I mean, the women know that they could die if they go out without their what do you call it on.
Also in the news recently was a 35-year-old woman who was a physician, a licensed practicing medical doctor, a professional, 35 years old, and her father was taking all of her money. And she went to a Sharia court to try to get it because she was unmarried. And an unmarried woman in the Islamic countries has no rights. So she went, and that her father should beat her for having taken her to court.
That's amazing.
And we can't even go in and do it.
Well, and it is terrible when it happens there. But what's unthinkable is there are people in America who support the idea of those people having their own little towns in America where they're allowed to do things like that because that's their culture. And that's what we should be opposed to.
That's not God's way.
Well, I don't understand.